Hi everyone. Today I'm going to finish a painting of the Edge that I've been working on for my U2 cartoon. Specifically, I'll show you how I paint his guitar. As you can see, most of the tough parts are finished, and it's time for me to pop a guitar in his hands. My friend Brian Betteridge says what I'm about to paint is a custom Fender Stratocaster that's been modified with a sustained system, and he believes it's a relatively new guitar and probably from the early 2010s. Edge has so many guitars that I'll never come close to painting all of them. But sometimes it feels like I have. I've been painting his guitars since 2002, and they're always different and never easy. Watercolor hates them. Transparent watercolor, that's where you don't use white paint and the color of your paper is your white. Transparent watercolor especially hates them. So if I have to paint one, I like to do it at an angle to avoid the dreaded fretboard, but sometimes that is not an option and I have to paint one that is seen straight on. This guitar has two things going for it from a painting standpoint. It's white and the fretboard is yellow. So I don't have to build up a lot of color on the body, and the strings show up as dark lines against the yellow. So what I've done so far is underpainting. Even white guitars can be colorful, especially in a concert situation where you're dealing with colored lights. If you look at his hands, you'll see a lot of the colors that will eventually turn up on the white part of the guitar. In the pink and yellow parts I've already painted, you can see traces of masking fluid that I'll paint later as highlights. I'm skipping around from place to place on the guitar to allow areas to dry while I work on other things. I'm not a musician, and I don't know the technical terms for most of the things I paint or what they're for. When I was in high school, my fine arts requirements were met by all the studio art classes I took, so I wasn't in band or chorus. And the weirdest thing about my school was, at the time, if you took art classes, you didn't have to take a foreign language class either. And now that I think about it, art may as well have been a foreign language at my little school, where I had 29 kids in my grade. And they had to create art classes for me because until I came along, nobody had taken art at my high school for all 4 years. Back to the painting, I've got 3 knobs and a little cone-like thing, and they're in a red-orange shadow similar to what you see on his hand. Just filling that in made me so happy. My friend Inchi took the reference photo here, and I like to pump up my colors as much as I can. So if something in the photo is kind of yellow, I'm going to make it screaming yellow. If I'm painting something difficult, the saturated colors are my little rewards. They look like candy and they feel like candy to me. The light is hitting the strings in such a way that you can't see all of them, which is just fine with me. I've added some skinny orange lines here and there. The strings cast shadows on the pick guard near his right hand, so that's why it seems like this guitar has a lot of extra strings there. I think it's really starting to look like a guitar now. I think my best Edge guitar is this Rickenbacker I painted a few months ago. The weird blue and green lighting made its golden body look really unusual, and that time I was an absolute maniac about the strings, which were a light against dark situation that was horribly challenging. Guitars are such beautiful instruments though, and when I nail one of Edge's guitars or an Adam Clayton bass, it's such a satisfying feeling. I think the best guitar I've ever painted was my Uncle Dale's vintage Gibson Super 400, which you can see here. Onto some other parts that I don't know the names of, but have painted literally dozens of times. This little U2 side gig of mine was something I tried out for, just for the heck of it, and I got the job. I had no idea that I'd still be doing it 16 years later, but here I am. It's one of the weirder things about me, but it has made me a better painter for sure. It's sort of my experimental art playground, and lately it's a place where I can just go wild with light and color and try things I wouldn't with conventional portraits. I've shown these pictures at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'm convinced that I got my second teaching job mainly because the person hiring me was a U2 fan. Their music has been part of the soundtrack of my life since I was 13, and they're just my favorite band. And Edge here is a true wizard and the easiest one of them to paint by far. And that's his daughter on his shirt, by the way. And now I'm going to put in a background that is my own invention. Earlier this year, during a concert in Berlin, Bono lost his voice, and the culprit may have been smoke from their smoke machines. So for the rest of the tour, they stopped using them, and all the photos from those shows had stark black backgrounds. So because watercolor can make smoke like no other medium, I've decided to add it with colors I've already used in the picture. His jeans are ripped and very dark, and they will blend into the smoky colors at the bottom of the painting. I was taught that in a painting you want to have lost and found edges, meaning that some areas should be sharply defined while others might blend into the background, and I am creating a lost edge on Edge here. I let this dry overnight, and this morning I finished his legs and the other details. Thanks a lot for watching.